I'm Nick Swift, owner of Swiftune Engineering, mini specialists. Our heritage is all about engines. So my father started the company back in 1965 as an engine builder, and that's the way that the company's always been. And then it's sort of evolved into spreading out into different things, and the cars and the racing cars. And since 2009, we became, which was the first mini race. And of course, the resurgence of historic, classic 60s minis really started to get a foothold and build up. And then gradually we started to get more and more guys that were interested in the classic 60s cars, but they didn't want a race car. Most of the guys, so the one behind us, which is currently Madgwick 8, the owner of that, Andrew, he's wants to recreate that car he had when he was at university. So he said it's got to be the original grey, old English roof, with red interior, because he wants to recreate what he had when he was at university. So I said, right, great. So we will make it with holes in the floor, and you've got to push start it when you get out the pub. Yeah, so I mean, going back to the Madgwick thing, so it was just a case of, it's a little nod to what we do to the historic cars at Goodwood. You know, the wing mirrors, the wheel arches, you know, we uprate the brakes, the suspension. We have our same Coney shock absorbers manufactured specifically to suit the Madgwick. Obviously, the race ones, you'd be shaking your teeth out while you're driving it along. Everything's bespoke, made for it. It was more of a project actually for my father, you know. It was like he'd sort of retired from the business, and we always said, you know, like a bored dad is a bit of a dangerous dad, you know, what's he going to get up to now? So we thought, right, let's give him a project or two, and he loved still building cars, you know. He just to say away from the workshop and his own place. He's very happy to be just tinkering in his workshop, doing, you know, car builds and stuff. So I thought, well, cool, let's have this little idea, you know, let's do these Mark 1s. And it's like, what do we call it? What do we call it? So it's like, actually, Mini Madgwick. It just sort of, I don't know where it sprung into my mind somewhere. Unfortunately, we lost my father back in 2017, just as the whole project was just starting to take shape. So we'd literally finished the first one, and then he passed away, and it was then, it was like, do you know what? Do I carry on with this thing, or do we just sort of, you know, just say there's just one car that got built, and that was that. Octane come down, and they pestered me and said, should we do a feature? And I said, yeah, all right then, let's just do it and see what happens. And we did it down at the circuit, and the response was amazing, you know, and it was like, wow, actually, people were interested in this. And it's sort of more of a sort of sideline for the Swiftune business, but you know, we're up to Madgwick 10 now, and it's sort of taking shape. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's loads of memories of you know, being dragged around all the race circuits and going off to whatever it was. I remember quite vividly the 1275 GT Challenge years, 1976. He was in the clerk of the courses office a fair bit, you know, and usually the front of the car would be quite beaten up, so you could sort of see what was happening there. And I do remember him come storming out of the clerk of the courses office, slam the door, and like, clerk of the course is an idiot, knows nothing, obviously. I mean, go storming off and have to listen to him chuntering all the way home. I remember just sort of being involved, always involved, you know, always been in part of, you know, the business, as it were. You know, even as a kid, you know, I'd come home from school and he'd sort of come in and say, right, what homework have you got? And I'd say, got maths or something. And he'd say, right, get on with it. Then come in the workshop. So, and then I said one day, he said, what homework you got? So I said, I've got RE, religious education. He says, right, forget that. Right, come in the workshop. So as a little kid, you know, I was always sort of tinkering around and always in there, and he used to put me in this great big bloody overall coat, a normal size overall coat for a little kid, and just roll up the sleeves and then crack off the nuts and bolts on an engine and say, right, take all them out, and, you know, and that's it, you know, I've done this. So genuinely, this has been my whole life, really. you know, he was very successful in the mini engine building world, you know, so he used to build, you know, the Rip Speed rallycross days, if you remember them. You won't remember them days, obviously, you know, old enough, but it was quite a big thing, you know, rallycross was on the Saturday afternoon TV, you know, the sports grandstand or whatever it was. And there was Keith Rip and his Rip Speed Mini, and the old man was the first one to build like a 1600cc Mini with a 8-port head on it, and it was like, so the rallycross was a big thing, you know, the televised rallycrosses. Lots of, you know, Mini Miglias, Mini 7s, you know, multiple champions in that, blah, blah, blah. So he had a good business, you know, and he had lots of engines and lots of customers. So, but then you got to think about the timings, you know, in late 80s, it was the boom side of it, but then of course the recession and everything else. So it was quite, you know, we started to build up quite nicely by sort of late 80s, and then it was the recession and everything else. So that was, I remember being quite tough, you know, quite tough in that period of time. So somewhere in the middle of the recession, no money, no nothing, you know, it was absolutely hand-to-mouth stuff. One of his customers had a 2-car Metro Challenge team that, so his name is Steve Taylor, and he was shared with Malcolm Harrison, and Malcolm Harrison is now a bit of a Goodwood racer now in his historic cars, etc. Malcolm wasn't racing that car any longer, that second Metro, so the old man did a deal with them where we ran the 2 cars for nothing, no money at all, and I would get the drive in the second car. That was the plan, and it sort of worked, you know, and that was it. That was my entrance into circuit racing. I managed to snap the gear stick off in my over-exuberance, so, which I was quite relieved about. You know, halfway through the race, it was like, ooh, okay, right, we'll pull off then. So that was. It took me the whole year, and then the last race of the season, I managed to finish on the podium at Silverstone. So it took me a whole year to sort of get to grips with the thing. Did that for a couple of years, moved on to historics, I think in early 90s. A friend of mine, or a customer of mine at the time, and just said, do you fancy having a go in this? In 1990, it was like a historic Mini of some description, and we went to Snetterton. It was my wife and I's very first wedding anniversary, it was. Come to Snetterton, my darling, you'll love it. It rained non-stop, it was horrific. But I sort of quite enjoyed driving the car around and thought, oh, this is quite cool. And then we ended up building the car the following year. So it was probably in the very, very late last knock-ins of 90s that it was like he was coming in less and less, and I was sort of taking more and more on. Until then, yeah, I was just running it, and he would just come in. The only time he would come in and just sort of empty the stores of parts that he needed to build what he wanted, and off he'd trundle again, you know. Yeah. So engine development, which, you know, so over that period of time, so we invested heavily in equipment, the proper dyno. We'd always, you know, had a dyno up from, that would have been early 90s, I suppose. Late 80s, we had the dyno, our first dyno, you know, a bit primitive, and then we built up. So having a dyno is the most important thing of being in engine building. So you can just test your product, and you can develop new ideas, and, you know, at the end of the day, we're seat of the pants. I haven't got a computer model of an engine that says, oh yeah, change X, Y, and Z, and it's going to give me another 5 horsepower. We just literally do it seat of the pants, you know, we're very much seat of the pants engineers. This is an American machine, the Superflow, and it's designed for big V8s mainly. Oh. You can see the shape of it at the bottom, it sort of goes in where the 2 exhausts would come round and then scoop in. So it's designed for stupid yank tank things. So we're only tickling it with a mini engine, literally just tickling it. So I reckon the thing's rated at over 2,000 horsepower. Oh, wow. So you get the American silly dragster things, you know, the top fuelers, whatever they call them, you know, with the like 2,000 horsepower supercharged funny fuel stuff. So literally with us, they're like 130 horsepower, we are tickling it. If you listen to it, I just control where I want the revs to be, and then that basically just allows more water or less water to go in to get the right revs. When they invented the Cooper S, so the first one was in '63, the first one was a 1071, and they were like homologation specials. So Cooper had got involved at this point now. In '61, there was the Cooper Mini was part of it. They quickly realised that was a waste of time. This little 9 and 8 thing, so created a better 9 and 8, short stroke, big bore, high revving. And then the 1071 followed their homologation specials for the classes, 1100 class, 9 and 8 class, and then they did the 1275 to get in the 1300 class. So, and that's what obviously we have now, what you see today at Goodwood, they're all 1293 cc and they're following that 1275 engine. So we still have to use the raw block of, we don't make a new block. We still have to find old original BMC blocks, which is quite tough now. They're quite hard to find. The cylinder head.
How many have you got?
We've got a few, but we're getting through. You have to have it in the mindset that it's every one that you use is another one gone. They're not being replenished. But every now and again you have a little eureka moment. You find a guy that opens his garage up and he's like, "Wait, there's a load in there." You can buy them. So. But the cylinder head, we manufacture a new one. So we have a casting that we have FIA approved. So we had to produce this casting. It's a faithful reproduction of the original BMC casting. We then send it to the MSA. The MSA obviously deal with the FIA, and then we go through this long drawn out rigmarole of getting homologation on it, which we have, which makes life a lot easier. So we don't have to worry about trolling the world looking for second-hand cylinder heads. So eventually the block will come, we'll have to do that. But yes, we are restricted to obviously the spec, the size, the bore, the stroke, the valve sizes, the carburettor sizes, as it was homologated in 1965. So in that period of time when I first got involved in the historic engines to where we are today, that's approximately, let's say, a 10 horsepower increase. That's so, is that good or is that bad? Or it sounds a bit lame, doesn't it, really? We've been working on it for 20 years and we've only gained 10 horsepower, So, but it's more to the point, they're reliable. It's a double-edged sword, because I know the guys that are running the meetings or running the championship or keeping an eye, the FIA scrutineers, etc. Obviously would like to see all cars being exactly as they were in the 60s, but the reality is they would just blow up all over the place. They're just rubbish. So you've got to build better com rods, better crankshafts, still the same pin sizes, journal sizes, dimensionally they're all the same, but it's much better quality. It's just having that development is now, most of it is in reliability, so you don't want to charge someone 20,000 quid for a new engine, horrendous, price for a new engine, and then have the conversation 3 meetings later when it's all blown up and they go, what do I do now? Another 20 grand please, so yeah, it is a double-edged sword, as I say. We have got a foothold and a nice position in that market, in the historic mini market. But there's other guys, that are doing this. We have our competition, and I was only saying this at Silverstone at the weekend, in the Mini Miglia Championship that we support heavily. There's 3 elements, it's obviously the engine side of it, very competitive, engine builder against engine builder, the car preparers all battling with each other, as well as the drivers, it's always been, it's about the drivers, but it's the most competitive it's ever been, you know, and there's more guys. I think we snuck under the radar, you know, in the mini world. The Mini Miglia Championship was always seen to be the pinnacle of mini motorsport, and lots of people put all their effort and lots of time into that. And of course, in the late 90s, I then sort of went away from that. So Swiftune has won it many times in championships, and you know, but I saw this opening in the historic world of like, that looks quite interesting, you know. There's a big market there. I remember a few of the comments from some of the guys were like, oh yeah, Swifty going off for them, you know, MOT failure racing, you know, that type of stuff for the historic market. They didn't understand it, you know. So, but then we did Brands Hatch through MS Feed. We did the mini festival at Brands Hatch in 2012, where actually I dipped my toe in the sort of race promoter market, if you like, and we bought the grid slot, and it was up to us to fill it. And it ended up being so successful, I needed 2 grid slots, you know, so we ended up with over 50 historic minis at Brands Hatch for the first historic event. And then, of course, all the other guys in the other world of mini racing saw that and went, Christ, look at all that lot. You know, all of a sudden it's like, oh, Swifty and his MOT failure racing. Blimey, there's a market here, you know. And since then, loads of other guys from that other world have come into it, and it is probably the most competitive it's ever been. I spent like 5 years or so driving other people's cars. So I just turn up, thrash the nuts out of their car and then go home again, you know, it's all good. And then I said, right, actually I need to be in control of my own destiny. So we built our car, raced it for a year before the 2009, got wind of the Goodwood 2009 mini race. And it was like, right, focus, we need to win that. If we're going to make a standing in this market, we've got to win that. And that's what we did. So I managed to team up with Oliver Gavin, who's awesome driver and generally nice guy, all round nice guy, and we just creamed it, you know. It was fantastic, you know, and then that was really what snowballed from there. Do you know what, I've missed some of the best races I've ever had because I never run camera, I never put a GoPro in it. I don't know, to be truth be known, I don't know how they work, you know. People say get a V-box, it's like loads of squiggly lines, I don't understand it. When I did drive other people's cars and they did have a GoPro in, you know, I remember the old man going, look at you, you're like, got time to look at your watch, and I'm having a look round and see what's going on. Because like when he was driving, I said he's a bit wild, he was like, rah, he'd be teeth marks in the steering wheel and rah, Eric's wild. And he used to laugh and go like, geez, you're so relaxed sitting in the car, like it's just like, what's going on, you know. So then fast forward to that camera, live cam, and it was like, right, okay. And I go round, and I was dicing with David Clark in that big Camaro, and you know, massive power. Obviously, he's just going to roar off down the straight, and it's like, if he brakes really early, and I can slide in there. And I remember driving down the Levant Straight, and I looked up at the big screen, and it's like, ooh, there's me. And then next thing you know, it's that David genuinely, you know, I thought I was being a bit cheeky and coming out of Levant, and I thought I'd just sneak in there and sort of hassle him a bit. And he shut the door, like, come right, and I thought, whoa. And then I was like, oh, come on. And I started, you know, whatever, and I think I was giving it, you know, yeah, Jesus, look in your mirror, man. And then I'll come down Levant Straight next lap, and I'm looking at the screen, and I thought, oh, there's me again, right? And I could see this, and I thought, oh, they quite like that. So, and then the more it sort of, you know, developed into, thought, oh, I'm going to shake my fist, and oh, there's me again, shake my fist. And it sort of evolved into a bit of fun thing, you know, really. So, but yes, simply, yes, I am quite animated, and I will. You know, when we've raced, we've had fantastic races away from Goodwood with Padmore and Endaf and all the other guys, and we're going down the straight, we're like, chopping up each other up. And, there's all sorts of hand gestures going on. So we do it. But now I think the camera's sort of, but I don't know whether it's sort of, it's had its day now, probably. In the 3 mini races that there's been, I've won 3, and I'm very, very proud of that. And that holds dear. But actually, the Padmore 19 race, I loved it in terms of that was just one of the best races ever.
He's been round the outside the last 2 laps. I wanted him to try something very different on the last lap. 2 minutes, 36 seconds to go. So one more lap after the one they are on. This enthralling Betty Richmond Trophy final.
And it's actually 23 minutes of jostling, of just sort of lining yourself up to wait for the last lap, because it's only about the last lap, because it's about the slipstream.
Over the line for the last time. Here we go, the last 2.4 miles. It is Padmore from Swift, from Lewis, from Curley.
As you come out of Madwick, you're in the tow, and he's coming, and we go through Ford water. He's coming in, he got there, and I remember thinking, you plonker, at that point. And at the same time, he went, oh no, what have I done? Right, and he backed off, and I was like, no way. You back off, I'm backing off, mate. Don't worry about that. Come on, you've made your bed, go and lie in it, right? So through No Name, some areas won, into some areas, into Levant, he's leading, and he knows he's coming. And actually, I've made a slight error. I like my tyres, because we do chew through tyres quite a bit on the Mini, it's the only downside. I liked the tyres I had in the first heat were just stunning, and the car was absolutely on fire. It was the easiest car I'd ever driven. And I said, I'm going to keep them tyres. The problem is, the last lap, they were knackered. And I was really struggling with front end grip. And then, because we had the other pair of Herberts behind us, I thought, I don't want them trying to tow up to me on the back straight. So I actually sacrificed Padmore coming into Levant, backed the other 2 up, just so I could get a better run out of. I didn't want them trying to come down the inside.
Nick Swift then too far away, I suspect, this time on the run down. It looks as though Nick Padmore might have just got this one.
Padmore's so good out of Lavant, isn't he?
Who's got the longer legs? Who's got the longer legs? Swift is closing. He's maybe a little bit too far back. He's trying to go around the outside, just as Padmore has done for him in previous laps. He's not going to do it.
A bit of understeer, and then but managed to pick up the tow once you get in the tow, and then slip past him, but he wouldn't let me have the inside. And then I said, literally talking to himself, going down the straight, I was like, right, fine, I'll just go around the outside. Right, so coming into Woodcote, and bearing in mind, it's about 120 mile an hour, and we brake at 50 metres. So it's quite late, and as I got to 50 metres and I've got to here, and I suddenly thought, what are you doing, you plonker? Like, this is Padmore, and it's the last corner of the Betty Richmond race. He's never going to let you go around the outside, and if you try, you're probably going to end up in a big smoking heap on the side of the track. So I backed out of it and went back down the other side, just as I then saw his front right lock up, and I thought, he's left that late.
He's not going to do it. He's going to run out of road. Padmore has got the advantage. And he's Here comes Nick Swift. Are they going to touch? No, not quite. Swift takes the lead. Padmore in second place, and it's going to be Nick Swift who is going to take the mini race here at Goodwood. A last corner drama. We knew that it was in the bag somewhere along the line. Swift wins the race.
And sure enough, he ran and anybody else, they probably would have had a bit of an argy-bargy to get back on the track, but because it was Nick, he let me just take that line, and then that was it. So he lost it, I didn't win it. We just want to win races. So that's what I want the engines to be, race winners, and I want happy customers with lots of trophies and championship wins under their belt, and that's how it's sort of been. I can remember when the Mini production stopped in 2000, And the old man, having a right old mizzog, and he said, well, that's it. We're ruined. You know, maybe it's some other words. He said, we're never gonna, that's it. 10 years, the whole mini scene will be dead. Because production has stopped, nobody will just lose interest, nobody will be interested. You know, it was completely the reverse, because it just went. The new Mini, the best thing about the new Mini was it brought a whole new breed of interest in people reliving their youth and bringing out, you know, going back to what they wanted to be when they were 17. Couldn't afford it when they were 17. Now they're successful in whatever they do, and they can afford it. I suppose in one respect, you know, I don't want to be still here doing the same thing personally myself when I'm in my 70s. I don't want to be found slumped over the head bench with a grinding tool in my hand, you know, at 75, you know, carked it. So I don't want to do that. I want to try and get out and enjoy some life. Before that happens, our children, so it's a proper family affair. So myself and Ali oversee, we're directors of the company, and then our children, so Hannah, my eldest, our eldest, is 30 this year. Can't believe it, but she's 30. And she now totally runs all of the sort of parts, because we sell a lot of parts as well. So we have the web shop, we have, you know, trade sales, so we sell a lot of the components, you know, so we have lots of stuff manufactured, we manufacture some stuff, and, you know, so there is the part side of it, which we're trying to actively push more, because you get a little bit carried away with the sort of racing side of it, that, you know, there's quite a lot of untapped business there that we don't really push into. And I'd like to think, you know, that there should hopefully be a business for a good few number of years now that our children can take into the future and just carry on where we look. So it'd be the third generation running the business. So that would be nice to think, you know, but it's not set in stone, you know. If the business is there, to be fair, who knows, you know, in 20 years' time, what's going to happen, you know, we don't know. You never forget your first race win, you know, you never forget that, and you that always sort of stays there, so that will always sort of stay very close and dear to my heart. What we do at Goodwood, I mean, I'm immensely proud of what we do at Goodwood, and that, to see the reward back from that is a really, really good moment. Yeah, having your family around you and building the business. That, you know, there is so many different ways. It's so difficult to give that. There's so many different elements, yeah, and obviously beating Padmore is like the best thing ever.